Good morning, Elon, and welcome to this video. Thanks for watching. It's a little tricky to know how to introduce myself to you, to anyone actually, for that matter. But let me start by saying that I recently watched an interview that you did with Joe Rogan 2 years ago, wherein you were talking about warning humanity about AI and all these sorts of things. And I can't remember if it was that interview or another one where you were discussing sending someone to Mars to start a colony because you believe that the nature of sustainability for life on Earth was limited. And in that regard, um, I can guarantee you, yes, it is. Everything here is an expression of limitation, being itself a greater experience of separation from source, God, universal mind, the creator, the singularity, whatever you want to view that as, whether scientific or philosophical, theosophical. So the point of my video, I guess, to try and get to it, which I never have any success making videos where I get to the point immediately. There's always this kind of preamble. So the point of my video is discovering purpose in all things we do. And so what is the purpose of sending a colony to Mars? And I'm just going to use that as an example, since that's something that seems to be quite a spectacular notion in the achievements of humanity, if it can be pulled off. What is the purpose of it? Right now, if you were to look at humanity as a whole, as a functioning singular organism, you would probably agree with me on some levels that humanity seems to be quite self-destructive and doesn't perceive its own best interests easily, which is correct. That's completely correct. That's true. The experience of separation, the experience of denial of the whole, and I'll get to the reason for this in a minute, pervades everything we do. There is a great, if you want to call it, cancer in our thinking that prevents us from realizing our own best interests. Now, one of the things that I remember you talking about was that now I'm not very good with this particular part of it, but as the AI being a symbiote or something, has the potential to take over and dominate the life structure and life thinking of the host. Well, that's exactly what has already happened. And we call that the ego. And the concept of the ego goes back as far as biblical days and before, actually, right back to Socrates. So that has already happened. Man is beset by an internal mechanism that he is all too willing, and because of inner laziness, all too willing to listen to and use as a guide for responding and reacting to external stimuli which have have not served him well. So my proposition to you then, and I do believe you have the capacity to do this, in the idea of sending a colony or establishing a colony on Mars, is that there is no point to doing that if you're only going to propagate a colony of the same mindset that already pervades the nature of life on Earth through the human race. And to get a little biblical here, I'd like to quote one of Jesus' parables, that 2 in 10,000 will hear this. Right? I know you're an exceptional mind and have quite a wide-ranging field of acumen as far as your particular chosen interests goes. It's been my experience that a educated mind is not necessarily any better off for being able to hear a reasonable perspective or a reasonable point of view than an ignorant mind. It seems to me to be that the nature of a person's life, when they are frustrated enough and when they have had enough suffering and pain, they will begin to change things. But until then, will continue on to seek for whatever they think their own comfort will be in the ever limiting, in the ever increasing or the ever decreasing limitations of their own experience. I'm just going to move out of this sun here a little. So I would like to draw your attention then to a mind training modality. It's a complete curriculum of mind training called A Course in Miracles, which is still getting which is written in a Christian context, but carries a universal vibration to it regarding the nature of participation in the curriculum itself. There's no obligation to call oneself a Christian or a Buddhist or anything like that. I'm just Dave, which is one of the beauties of it. So the mind training course itself has 365 lessons spanning the course of a year, obviously. 365 lessons that take the reader, and the reader must be willing to take the course and cannot be forced upon them. It's only willingness that opens the mind, a willing mind to be open to reason and possibility beyond what the conceptual understanding of life is at the moment. Through a particular process of first unlearning that which has been learnt so far, and then relearning or reacquiring really true sight in order to become what we call benevolent and wholly loving of ourselves and others. Now, whether you want to believe me on this next thing, I'm sure you will actually, but I've had 2 meetings out of time with non-temporal beings. The first experience I had of this, the beings were completely translucent. I couldn't see them at all. There was just simply an awareness, and these beings gave me a specific amount of information. And the second meeting I had was with beings of a bluish, semi-translucent nature with points of light within themselves, which rocked me a lot more than the first meeting. The first meeting was completely in accord with the particular mode of meditation and everything that I was doing at the time. The second one was just kind of out of the blue, no pun intended. And the second meeting took place aboard a craft. If you want to call it an alien craft, well then so be it. And I don't want to dwell too much on this because I get a lot of rolled eyeballs and a lot of oogly googly. But being a man of an outer space with an outer space penchant, I'm sure that you can probably appreciate that there are indeed other forms of life and other life forms out there in not only other spheres of visible spectrum of light, but also beyond that in what exists in the non-visible spheres. And both of these were of the non-visible variety. I could go into detail, and it's very exciting. I'm sure all the stories of these things, many people actually ask me, UFO buffs and people like that ask me about them, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just trying to get across that the nature of life beyond the physical dimension and the physical platform that we call the world, which was made as a place by higher beings, made as a place where minds can enter into one of these avatar constructs to have the experience of learning the power of the mind through the mechanism of choice. I can tell you that life beyond the physical plane is wholly benevolent, but the transitionary activity required in the consciousness is a passage of, liken it to crossing a bridge, if you like, going from one land to another, where the transition is not only through that workbook, through the lessons of using the workbook of A Course in Miracles, which is the highest teaching on the planet at the moment, but through putting it into practice, through confronting our fears and our desires for death, which is what the experience of the physical world is. All things come here to experience the idea of death in all its many facets and forms, from the smallest of size to the greatest of cataclysms, and of course the demise of the physical shell. But the reason that I want to offer this to you is because it would be beneficent to the crew, and ongoing. I'm assuming that a colony would take into account childbirth, etc., and the growth of the colony. That we don't repeat our same mistakes. You know, it's important that any astronauts or anyone heading off would have a new way to see, that is, at least in a symbiote relationship with the nature of the rest of the terrestrial fraternity. You know? So I could tell you many things that I'm sure you would be able to put into useful practice in your own life and in your own thinking, that would aid you in your endeavors. But for now, I'll leave you with this short video, and you can contact me if you want to. But like I said, jump online, order yourself a copy of A Course in Miracles. Your ego is going to be against you, right? You also have that symbiote relationship with the imaginary part of your mind, which exists in potential. So just be aware that you'll want to deny it. When you start to read it, you'll come across concepts that the world is an illusion, that we're living within a dream, within a fabric or a matrix, which I know you're familiar with. And you'll also come across the means to discover that for yourself, specifically in having the experience of direct union with source, with reality as it is, being eternal and whole and all-encompassing. And I'll leave you with that all-encompassing concept that if God is love, all-encompassing, forever, formless spirit, then what is this? Either God is not everything, all-encompassing and eternal forever, and God being the singularity, the source, or, in which case we're screwed, or this is our reality and we're screwed. Having had the experience of direct union with Source, I can guarantee you this is not our reality, and it's not the opposite of reality. It's just another form of reality. It's a dream within a dream, and through the process of mind training, we awaken from the first dream, which is our individual dream of autonomy, to discover a true dreaming or an altruistic dream wherein we believe and experience that we are one with the whole. And then beyond that, laying aside the vessel to exit the dream entirely, or exit the illusion entirely into the light, which is all there is. All right, I love you, my brother. Thank you. And I'm proud to have been of service to you, hopefully. Make of it what you will. Peace.